The 2022 Formula One season was incredible and fascinating. Because of the new regulations, the field was brought closer together, and it was easier for drivers to overtake, which led to some thrilling races. What are the top 5 best races of the Formula One 2022 season? Stay tuned to find out. 5. Austrian Grand Prix. Ferrari's Charles Leclerc defeated Red Bull's Max Verstappen to win the Austrian Grand Prix, and Lewis Hamilton completed the podium. Leclerc took the lead when Max Verstappen pitted on lap 12. Leclerc pitted much later on lap 27 and retook the lead with a pass on lap 37. With Sainz challenging Verstappen for P2, the Dutchman pitted again on lap 37. After making his second pit stop on lap 51, Leclerc regained the lead on lap 53 of the race. When Sainz was closing in on Verstappen, the Spaniard suddenly slowed down, and a fire that broke out of the back of his Ferrari signaled the end of his race. As a result, Hamilton, who had fought his way up from position 8 to position 4, took the third and final spot on the podium. In spite of a late race scare in which Leclerc reported that his throttle pedal was sticking, making downshifts difficult and allowing Verstappen to close to within 2.3 seconds, he won for the first time since round 3 at Melbourne, with Verstappen missing out on a chance at a third straight win at the Red Bull Ring. After starting in 4th place, Mercedes driver George Russell finished a distant 4th due to the fact that he lost time during his first pit stop. In addition, he received a 5-second penalty for colliding with Red Bull driver Sergio Perez early on in the race. Alpine's Esteban Ocon completed the top 5, having started 6th. The driver of the day honours went to Mick Schumacher, who finished 6th after passing both McLaren's Lando Norris, who finished 7th, and Haas teammate Kevin Magnussen, who finished 8th. Both McLaren drivers enjoyed renewed pace with their medium hard strategy, which resulted in the team achieving a double-point finish with Ricciardo's 9th place finish. Fernando Alonso finished in 10th place. You're enjoying this video, right? You definitely don't want to miss out on other amazing videos. So all you have to do is hit the subscription button. It's that easy. Thanks for doing that. Let's move on. 4. Bahrain Grand Prix. Charles Leclerc won a sensational race in Bahrain, as Carlos Sainz backed up a Ferrari 1-2, as Red Bull suffered a double DNF to give Lewis Hamilton the final podium slot in a remarkable season opening. On lap 15, Verstappen, who was starting in position 2, made an effort to pass Ferrari's pole sitter Leclerc. Verstappen was successful in reducing the gap between them from 3.5 seconds to only 0.35 seconds on lap 16. That triggered a 3-lap box office bout for the lead, Leclerc hanging on when Verstappen locked up into turn 1 on lap 19. On lap 31, the second set of pit stops took place, again catalysed by Verstappen, although Leclerc had a much more comfortable lead this time. Everything was straightforward until Verstappen pitted on lap 44. 2 laps later, Pierre Gasly's AlphaTauri burst into flames, which brought out the safety car. Charles Leclerc also took advantage of this chance and pitted. During the restart on lap 51, Charles Leclerc quickly pulled away from Max Verstappen, who was suffering from a steering problem and frustrated by what he believed to be a problem with the power unit. Verstappen just couldn't keep up with Leclerc. On lap 54, Sainz took advantage of Verstappen's struggles and passed the Dutch driver to move into 2nd place. Having challenged for the lead earlier, it ended up being a terrible day for the world champion, who ended up retiring at the end of that tour. It went from bad to worse for Red Bull when Perez spun at turn 1 when his engine gave way on the final lap, giving Hamilton the last podium slot. Hamilton had been right on Perez's tail until the Mexican began to complain about a power unit issue. Russell, who started 9th, had a faster pace speed than the drivers in the midfield and moved up to 4th place after both Red Bull drivers pulled out of the race. He finished ahead of Kevin Magnussen, who finished 5th. 3. Belgian Grand Prix. Max Verstappen started the 2022 Belgian Grand Prix in 14th position on the grid, but he easily overcame his grid penalties to win the race and lead Red Bull to a 1-2 finish with Sergio Perez. Carlos Sainz, who started in the pole position, finished 3rd for Ferrari. Lewis Hamilton and Fernando Alonso collided at Les Combes on the first lap of the race, knocking the Mercedes driver out of contention. In the second lap, Valtteri Bottas spun out while trying to avoid Nicholas Latifi, which resulted in the deployment of the safety car. After the restart, Verstappen took the 9th position, with Sainz in front of Perez. Leclerc had to make a pit stop for medium tyres because of a tear-off in his brake duct. After making short work of the cars that were in front of him, Verstappen moved up to 3rd place by the 8th lap, trailing just Perez and Sainz. Sainz pitted from softs to mediums on lap 12 when Perez allowed Verstappen past and into the lead. The Dutchman extended his lead until lap 15 and clawed back the deficit to Sainz, taking the lead on lap 18 before going on to win over Perez by over 18 seconds in a dominant display. The podium's final spot was taken by Sainz, who finished ahead of Mercedes' George Russell, who had previously gotten the better of Charles Leclerc but fell short of the final podium place by just more than 2 seconds. Leclerc made a late pit stop for soft tyres in an attempt to win the fastest lap, but he could not secure the bonus point and barely maintained his 5th place position ahead of Fernando Alonso. However, after being caught speeding in the pit lane, a 5-second penalty dropped him to P6. 2. Hungarian Grand Prix. The 2022 Hungarian Grand Prix was won by Max Verstappen, who started in 10th place. Thanks to the flawless implementation of Red Bull's strategy, Lewis Hamilton finished in 2nd place, ahead of his Mercedes teammate George Russell, who had started from the pole position. While on soft tyres, Russell led the race until pitting on lap 15, and then Verstappen pitted from 5th place 1 lap later, forcing Carlos Sainz to pit from the lead. In the meantime, Charles Leclerc maintained his position at the front of the pack, extending his first stint all the way to lap 22. Russell led again, but was passed by Charles Leclerc on lap 31. So from P4, Verstappen forced the issue with a 2nd stop for mediums on lap 39. Importantly, with that stop, Verstappen had successfully completed an undercut on Sainz and had an advantage on Leclerc as well. Leclerc had started on medium tyres, but switched to the same compound after a lengthy first stint. Soon after that, the Dutchman easily passed his competitor, and it became apparent that hard tyres were not the answer. Leclerc dropped to position 6 as he switched back to soft tyres, and Max Verstappen took 1st place by a margin of 7.8 seconds. And that was despite Verstappen having a 360-degree spin at the final corner, which almost cost him the race and required him to make another pass on Leclerc. Hamilton started the race on medium tyres, overtook the Alpines, pitted for mediums and stayed out long to ensure he could finish the race on softs, allowing him to overtake Sainz and Russell for 2nd place. After having the pole position to begin the race, Russell was unable to convert that into a victory. Instead, he finished 3rd, ahead of Sainz, whose slow pit stops caused him to finish 4th behind the Mercedes. On another frustrating day for the Scuderia, Sainz was able to hold off Sergio Perez by 1 second, but Leclerc was unable to use his soft tyres to pass Perez and finish 6th behind the Red Bull. 1. British Grand Prix. After a tense race at the British Grand Prix, Ferrari's Carlos Sainz took the checkered flag to record his first victory in Formula 1. The Spaniard finished 1st, beating off Red Bull's Sergio Perez and Lewis Hamilton's Mercedes. The key to Sainz's victory was a late safety car that was caused by Esteban Ocon retiring his Alpine. Sainz attacked teammate Charles Leclerc on fresh tyres at the restart to claim P1 and check out for his first win on his 150th Grand Prix start. Perez, who dropped to P16 after a pit stop, having had contact at the early race restart following a red flag stoppage, came out on top in a thrilling fight with Hamilton and Ferrari's Charles Leclerc to take an unlikely P2 position. Hamilton, meanwhile, delighted the crowd with his 2nd straight podium and 13th at Silverstone in P3. Zhou Guanyu of Alfa Romeo and Alex Albon of Williams were both taken to the medical centre after separate incidents at Turn 1. Zhou was later released, while Albon was transferred to nearby Coventry Hospital for precautionary checks. As a result of the incidents, Zhou, Albon, and Mercedes' George Russell were all forced to retire from the race. This drama caused that early red flag at the original race start. After leading for a significant portion of the race, Leclerc was forced to settle for 4th place, finishing in front of the Alpine driven by Fernando Alonso and the McLaren driven by Lando Norris. The early race leader Max Verstappen had sustained some type of damage that crippled his Red Bull, and the championship leader could only take P7. Now over to you. Which Formula 1 race during the just completed Formula 1 season impressed you the most and why? Let me know in the comments section below. That will be all for today's video. Thanks for staying tuned. Please don't forget to hit the subscribe button and notification bell so that you can always get to watch more amazing videos like this. See you in the next video.